Imagine this. You live a normal life, just like everyone else. You have a family, aspirations, and a clear sense of right and wrong. Then one day, you find yourself in a situation where you must make a choice. A road splits before you. On one side, a path of integrity and morality. On the other, an easier route. One paved with justifications and small compromises. At first, the difference between the two is clear. You tell yourself you would never choose the wrong path. But then, life happens. A small lie to protect a friend. A rule bent in the name of necessity. A command followed because resisting feels impossible. Step by step, the gap between the two roads narrows. Until one day, you realize you've crossed the line. You never meant to. You never thought you would. But here you are. This is how good people become monsters. History has shown that atrocities aren't committed by villains from the start. More often, they are carried out by ordinary people who, step by step, become capable of the unimaginable. Take a soldier in wartime. He begins as a devoted family man, someone who once cradled his child and whispered bedtime stories. Then, under orders, he raises his weapon toward a group of civilians. Their eyes plead for mercy. His hands tremble. He hesitates. Then the command, "Do your duty," and he pulls the trigger. He was never a monster, not at first. How do good people reach this point? We assume only the heartless commit evil, but psychology tells a different story. It reveals that anyone, under the right circumstances, can cross that line. The corruption cycle. The transformation from good to monstrous follows a pattern. It doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens gradually. 5 psychological forces, acting together, lead people down this path. The erosion of morality. No one leaps straight into evil. It begins with tiny moral compromises, ones that seem harmless at first. A small lie. A rule bent just this once. A justification for an action that feels wrong but seems necessary. Each decision chips away at personal ethics. What once seemed unthinkable becomes easier. A person who would never steal starts by taking office supplies home. A soldier who swore to protect life begins by roughing up a prisoner. History proves this pattern. In political scandals, corruption often starts with minor deceptions. In corporate fraud cases, unethical choices escalate over time. Even in war crimes, individuals begin with small infractions before participating in full-scale atrocities. Blind obedience to authority. Throughout history, countless atrocities have been committed not by fanatics or sadists, but by ordinary individuals who simply followed orders. In many cases, people do not question authority figures, whether they are superiors in the workplace, commanding officers in the military, or political leaders, because we are conditioned to trust and obey those in power. Consider the many soldiers who have participated in war crimes, later claiming they had no choice but to follow commands, or the bureaucrats who have carried out oppressive policies, believing it was simply their job. Time and again, people have excused their actions with the simple justification, "I was just doing what I was told." The danger of blind obedience is that it strips away personal responsibility. When people surrender their moral judgment to an authority figure, they become capable of things they never imagined. This pattern has been seen in authoritarian regimes, corporate scandals, and even everyday environments where individuals comply with unethical directives rather than question them. The us versus them mentality. Humans are tribal by nature. We align ourselves with groups, our country, our religion, our political party. And once we see ourselves as part of a group, we begin seeing outsiders as different. That's when dehumanization starts. In history's darkest moments, propaganda has been used to turn entire populations against others. In Rwanda, radio broadcasts labeled an ethnic group as cockroaches. During wartime, enemies are often compared to animals to justify violence. When people stop seeing others as human, harming them becomes easier. This same pattern appears today in political debates, social media outrage, and online harassment. The moment people start thinking of others as the enemy rather than individuals, morality begins to slip. Dehumanization, the final step. At a certain point, a person stops seeing their victims as people at all. They become objects, obstacles, enemies. When this happens, morality vanishes completely. The last psychological barrier collapses. This is how genocides happen. This is why history repeats itself. The people who commit mass killings, torture, and atrocities are not born evil. They are transformed into something unrecognizable. Could it happen to you? The scariest truth is that no one is immune to this process. It's easy to look at history's villains and say, I would never do that. But countless psychological studies and real-world events prove otherwise. The difference between a good person and a monster is not as wide as we think. It's not about being born evil. It's about the choices we make, the justifications we allow, and the warnings we ignore. History has shown that the moment you think, I would never do that, is the moment you are most vulnerable to doing exactly that. The only way to truly remain good is to never stop questioning yourself.